and a couple of different videos, and it sounded like something that I would be interested in. So I put it on hold at the library and picked it up. And I was right. I really liked it. It's a standalone, so it's not a series. I do believe she has another book out, and I'm pretty sure it's on my to-be-read list on my library app. I apologize, my air conditioner just kicked on, so if that messes with the audio, I apologize, but it's very hot, and I cannot bring myself to turn it off. Sorry, so just bear with me if there's any background noise because of it. So anyway, back to the book. The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. I'm going to read the book description from the inside cover and the quote on the back, and then go into my own synopsis about it. So we'll start with the description. Welcome to the cursed town of Sparrow. 2 centuries ago, 3 sisters were sentenced to death for witchery. Stones were tied to their ankles, and they were drowned in the deep waters surrounding the town. Now, for a brief time each summer, the sisters return, stealing the bodies of 3 troubled girls so that they may seek their revenge, luring boys into Sparrow's harbor and pulling them under. Like many locals, 17-year-old Penny Talbot has accepted the fate of this town. But this year, on the eve of the sisters' return, a boy named Bo Carter arrives, unaware of the danger he has just stumbled into. Mistrust and lies spread quickly through the salty, rain-soaked streets. The townspeople will turn against one another. Penny and Bo will suspect the other of hiding secrets, and death will come swiftly to those who cannot resist the call of the sisters. But only Penny sees what others cannot. She will be forced to choose: save Bo or save herself. So that's the description inside the book. Now I'm going to read what's on the back. The Swan sisters arrived in Sparrow, Oregon in 1822. Marguerite, the oldest, had long auburn locks, full lips, and a sharp jaw. Aurora, the middle sister, boasted soft waves of hair and bright full moon eyes. And Hazel, the youngest, was the plainest of the 3, with smaller features and hair that twisted into a tumbling braid. Each was beautiful and each was misunderstood. A year later, the townspeople executed the Swan sisters for crimes of witchcraft, placing a curse on the small town of Sparrow. A curse that has never been broken, until now, perhaps. does it justice. I don't know that any synopsis that I could provide on my own would be better than that. I'm not the most succinct when it comes to summaries, but we're gonna give it a go. So the best way that I would describe this book is it's Hocus Pocus meets The Crucible. Put those two together and that's kind of the vibe that I got. Only, minus the silliness of Hocus Pocus. But that's the best way I would describe it. Hocus Pocus meets The Crucible. And it's very atmospheric. It's in a town called Sparrow in Oregon, off the coast. The main character, Penny, lives on an island with just her mom. Her dad disappeared three years prior to the start of the book. At least I think it's 3. It's been like a week or so since I finished it. We'll say a couple years before the start of the book. Her dad has disappeared, so it's just her and her mom living on their island with the lighthouse. And the introduction kind of explains the town to you and what the vibe is like in the town. And we start off with Penny and her friend and classmates. That kind of set the stage for how the townspeople feel about the Swan sisters and this curse on the town. And it's all from Penny's point of view. And we meet the male character that it talks about in the description pretty early on, and he wants to come work for Penny, and he's very mysterious, not giving a whole lot away right off the bat. One of those things where it's like they meet and it's, I need a job. Are you gonna tell me about yourself? No, I'm not gonna tell you anything I don't have to tell you. And she's like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna tell you anything either. And they're both just really secretive and mistrusting. But there's that like instant attraction between the two of them where it's like, you're really mysterious, but I'm kind of into it. And they bump into each other again. And then Swan season starts, and that is a couple-week period every summer where the Swan sisters come back and boys start disappearing and drowning in the harbor. And the rest of the book unfolds, and Penny and Beau experience Swan season together. And it's one of those things where, yes, boys disappear and they drown every year. And it's a matter of trying to figure out, is there really a curse? Like, are they actually drowning because these Swan sisters have come back to life and are taking their vengeance on this town year after year? Or is there more to it? And the story just unfolds in that way, but it's a very, like, I don't want to say haunting atmosphere because it's not creepy. It's not creepy. Like, it's not like horror or even overly suspenseful, I wouldn't say. But it just does have that very, like, moody, witching hour, ghost story kind of vibe. But, you've got teenagers as your primary characters, so it's definitely not spooky in like a you should be afraid way. See, I told you, I'm terrible at synopsis. I just ramble and go off cliffs and then back up cliffs, and I'm all over the place with my explanations. But yeah, I think I'm done talking about it, and I'm going to read you the first 5 pages so that you can get a taste for yourself. The writing style, the atmosphere, all of that. So, the sea. Three sisters arrived in Sparrow, Oregon in 1822 aboard a fur trading ship named the Lady Astor, which sank later that year in the harbor just beyond the Cape. They were among the first to settle in the newly founded coastal town, and they strode onto the new land like thin-legged birds with wavy caramel hair and pasty skin. They were beautiful, too beautiful. The townspeople would later say Marguerite, Aurora, and Hazel fell in love often and typically with the wrong men, those whose hearts already belonged to someone else. They were coquettes, temptresses, and men found them impossible to resist. But the townspeople of Sparrow found the sisters to be much more. They believed them to be witches, casting spells on the men to make them unfaithful. And so at the end of June, when the moon was nothing but a thin shard in the overcast sky, stones were tied to the sisters' ankles, and they were dropped into the ocean just beyond the Cape, where they sank to the bottom and drowned, just like the ship they arrived on. Chapter 1. I have an old black and white photograph taken in the 1920s of a woman at a traveling circus floating in a massive tank filled with water, blonde hair billowing around her head, legs hidden by a false mermaid's fin made of metallic fabric and thread to look like scales. She is wispy and angelic, with thin lips pinched tightly together, holding her breath against the icy water. Several men stand in front of the glass tank, staring at her as if she were real, so easily fooled by the spectacle. I think of this photograph every spring when murmurs begin to circulate through the town of Sparrow about three sisters who were drowned beyond the maw of the harbor past Lumiere Island, where I live with my mother. I imagine the three sisters floating like delicate ghosts in the dark shadows beneath the water's surface, mercurial and preserved, just like that slideshow mermaid. Did they struggle to stay above the waterline 2 centuries ago when they were forced into the deep, or did they let the weight of each stone carry them swiftly to the cold, rocky bottom of the Pacific? A morning fog, somber and damp, slides over the surface of the ocean between Lumiere Island and the town of Sparrow. The water is calm as I walk down to the dock and begin untying the skiff, a flat-bottomed boat with 2 bench seats and an outboard motor. It's not ideal for maneuvering in storms or gales, but fine as a runner into town and back. Otis and Olga, 2 orange tabby cats who mysteriously appeared on the island as kittens 2 years back, have followed me down to the water, mewing behind me as if lamenting my departure. I leave every morning at this time, motoring across the bay before the bell rings for first period, global economics class, a subject that I will never use. Every morning they follow me to the dock. The intermittent beam of light from the lighthouse sweeps over the island, and for a moment it brushes across a silhouette standing on the rocky western shore atop a cliff. My mother. Her arms are crossed in her knobbly, caramel-colored sweater wrapped tightly around her fragile torso, and she's staring out at the vast Pacific like she does each morning, waiting for someone who will never return. My father. Olga rubs up against my jeans, arching her bony back and raising her tail, coaxing me to pick her up. But I don't have time. I pull the hood of my navy blue rain slicker up over my head, step into the boat, and yank the cord on the motor until it sputters to life. Then steer the boat out into the fog. I can't see the shore or the town of Sparrow through the dim layer of moisture, but I know it's there. skeleton wrecks still haunting these waters. Beneath me lies a web of barnacle-crusted metal, links of rusted chain trailing over broken bows, and fish making their homes in rotted portholes, the rigging long since eaten away by the salty water. It's a graveyard of ships, but like the local fishermen chugging out through the dreary fume into the open sea, I can navigate the bay with my eyes pinched shut against the cold. The water is deep here. Massive ships used to bring in supplies through the port, but not anymore. Now only small fishing boats and tourist barges sputter through. These waters are haunted, the seamen still say, and they're right. I think I'm going to leave it there. So that is the Wicked Deep. The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. I really enjoyed this book. I finished it really quickly once I got started. It's not super long. It's 308 pages. So yeah, that is The Wicked Deep, my first book of the month for the month of August. I have quite a few books on my saved for later list on my library app, so I'm not really sure which one I'm going to read next, but whichever one I enjoy the most in the month of September, or whichever one I enjoy the most, or when I'm finished reading it, if there's one that I really liked, I will include that in September for my next book of the month. Thank you for being here with me tonight for this ASMR